You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang, and with me, as always, is Skyler Timmons.
For our audio listeners, I also am decked out in Broncos gear.
He totally is.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely not just wearing a dark quarter zip.
I'm wearing a John Gray t-shirt underneath.
Good old John Gray. I do miss him. It's a shame that he is very potentially done after his injury that he sustained. It's very difficult to come back and pitch after thoracic outlet surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And we unfortunately saw that happen with Scott Oberg back in the day, though it was more of a recurring issue with Oberg than it was with John Gray at this point. But still tough to see. You hate to see it. Speaking of things you hate to see, in that nice deafening silence from Skyler here, we'll do our quick roundup on Colorado sports here. And we're going to start with the fact that, yes, the Denver Broncos defeated the Buffalo Bills in the AFC divisional round to advance the AFC championship, but at a mighty, mighty cost in the second to last full play of overtime. Bo Nix, our beloved franchise quarterback, broke his ankle and is done for the rest of the season.
They couldn't have taped it up.
Ankles are tricky, and especially
rub some dirt on it
with the way that Bo Nix plays, and that his mobility is an important part of his play, and also he tends to throw on the run a lot. I trust the organization when they say this is not something he can play on. But just a tremendous bummer. We got to celebrate for a whole 5 minutes after winning. And now we have Jared Stidham will be the starting quarterback in the conference round, in the conference championship, looking to be against the New England Patriots, who are currently putting a little bit of a wallop on the Houston Texans at time of recording. And just a real bummer all around. It was a fun game. It was overall a really good game, but just to have it end the way that it did with Bo Nix breaking his ankle, that's a heartbreaker.
Well, at least it wasn't like Sean Payton comes out and says, "Oh, he got roughed up a little bit, but we're optimistic. We don't think it's anything serious," like a certain team in purple would do. And so, it sucks, and hopefully there's some still Broncos magic left.
Yeah, it's the way that they handled it, where Sean Payton basically called the media back in and said, "This is not going to stay quiet until Monday, so we figured it's important to just let everybody know that this happened."
He's dead. Bo Nix is dead.
I mean, it sure felt that way. Like, after the game, I was on cloud nine. I was scrolling through social media, and Andrew Mace just posted on Blue Sky, Bo Nix broke his ankle, and I was like, wait, what? Excuse me, what? And then it's just started pouring in from everywhere else.
Rough go of it.
Yeah.
Can Peyton come out of retirement?
Get Phillip Rivers.
Get one of his kids. They're probably old enough now.
I think one of them is in like late high school at this point. But yeah, real bummer. You still got a Bo leave at least a little bit, that the Broncos might be able to pull out a little bit more magic in what's been a really fun season overall. But if this is where it ends next week in the conference championship, it's hard to say that you wouldn't understand why. But fingers crossed. A little bit of Mile High magic. That anime horse girl magic.
We can get different kind of magic.
Following that up with Colorado Avalanche news, the Avs have finally suffered their first regulation loss at home. Came against the Nashville Predators. Not a very good game on all ends of the puck by the Avs, but the Avs are still in a
Doing their
very
thing.
commanding spot in terms of the season. It's hard to let it get you down. You knew it was going to come at some point. Mainly, we're at a spot now where we need some guys to get healthy. Landy, Taves, still both off the ice. Kiviranta. So it's really just a wait and see thing. And it was a tough comeback game for Mackenzie Blackwood, who had been out for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. And then the Nuggets just keep rolling.
Yeah, with or without Nikola Jokic, who has finally tried a quesarito and has been looking sharp, like dressed up in nice suits on the sideline. He's been coaching up the guys, and the team has really stepped up. Peyton Watson, Jamal Murray, Tim Hardaway Jr., they're winning games, and we expected the worst when Jokic went down in combination with all the other injuries, because we've seen this team struggle without Jokic before, but it's been perfectly cromulent. They're getting the job done where they need to. So good job on those Nuggets.
Good job of building up depth of the next man up mentality. And turns out depth is very important no matter what sport it is.
Yeah.
We'll see the Broncos depth. We've seen Broncos depth tested, but now at their most crucial position, they'll see it tested in the most important game of the season at this point now. And then
I would prefer if it was not getting tested at this point.
Yeah, not real. At this point, but that's what happens. The Avs have always been tested. We saw Trent Miner, comes up and has some good games. And so it's important thing in sports is next man up, building depth from your front office. And that's what a certain team that we'll talk about has been trying to do, is just trying to flesh out their roster.
Yeah, and on that note, we'll go ahead and switch on over to what this show is actually about, which is our Colorado Rockies. And Skyler, like you said, the depth of this team has been tested tremendously, especially last season when Tovar went down and then Aaron Schunk went down early in the season. And we had
Tyler
to do
Estrada
things.
Went down.
Yeah, we had to do things like get Alan Trejo back, sign Orlando Arcia. And we have seen the Rockies so far approach things a little bit differently this offseason. And the first thing they've done is they've officially cemented that Michael Lorenzen contract as a key piece of the 2026 starting rotation. And in exchange, they have designated Bradley Blaylock for assignment.
Yeah, and it's cool with Lorenzen because we already knew. So you can check our last episode that we had where we talked all about that. But it's cool to see he's a guy who kind of runs to the challenge. He's excited to be in Colorado. He wanted to come be there, embrace the challenge, and luckily he's familiar with a lot of the people in the pitching side of things for the organization, so that helps. And he'll be a good guinea pig, hopefully a good addition, good solid veteran who wants to embrace that leadership role and mentorship, Evan, which I think is going to be huge. That you have a guy coming in from outside the organization who's ready to and eager to share his knowledge with younger pitchers, which will be awesome. But with Blaylock, the writing was on the wall. We both knew it times throughout the 2025 season, but it really cemented for me when I did the ranking the Rockies. I think he was our second. He was like the third article of the ranking the Rockies series that we did over at Purple Row.
Yeah, number 56 at negative 1.6 wins above replacement.
Yeah, so he was one of the first ones we did, and it was not a good year for him. We saw some little brief flashes for Bradley Blaylock, but a lot of it's just inconsistency. And, he would get his opportunities as a depth piece, would come up and just would not make the most of it, was not the next man up mentality, and he struggled a lot with consistency, got hit hard, and it ultimately lands him on, probably gets outrighted to AAA would be my guess, unless somebody picks him up here within these next couple of days. But it's kind of right on the wall, not really surprising to see this happen to Blaylock.
Yeah, honestly, I hate to say it because, perfectly nice guy, that Bradley Blaylock, but with how he struggled and was so inconsistent in 2025, it really was like he'd come in and he'd show this flash and you'd go, Okay, that's something. That's something. But then his next time out, it would just be another really difficult one, getting hit so hard. And really, where he struggled was he just wasn't really striking guys out. Very few strikeouts. And it just wasn't an approach that was working. And so now he's, like you said, very likely to be outrighted off the roster to AAA Albuquerque. I don't foresee him getting claimed on waivers, but,
Yeah.
I suppose we'll see. And honestly, there's even a chance, like with any of these players, that the Rockies could just choose to let him become a free agent if he wants to. He can't reject the outright because he doesn't have the service time or anything like that. But if the Rockies want to give him a fresh start and the Rockies want a fresh start, that's something they could do. And the trade off, it really is, it's a guy with more experience, with more success, with more consistency, who's the big thing for me with Lorenzen is how much he has worked with a lot of the other guys on this staff. He's worked with Alan Leichman. He's worked with Gabe Rebus. He's worked with Jeff Pickler. He's worked
Matt, Matt
with Matt
Daniels.
Daniels. He's worked with so many of these people before, and that he's on board for what the Rockies are doing, and that he actually, he probably could have gotten a decent contract from another team that needed starting depth, and he made the decision to come here. That says a lot, I think, to what the Rockies are building.
And it points to, yeah, because that's something we've always talked about before, Evan, where the Rockies never made themselves a desirable location either in their pitch to free agents and whatnot. Instead of, hey, Dakota Hudson, we'll give you a $1.5 million bucks if you just come pitch for us because we know you're not going anywhere else. We're your last resort type of thing. You'll get to start in the majors with us. And now hopefully they can take the stance of, look at this team of pitching people we have, what we're trying to do. We want you to come be part of our solution of figuring out how to pitch at Coors Field because we think you can be a missing piece of this puzzle to help us figure it out. And
Yeah.
like as a player, like how good would that feel of like, oh, this team views me as somebody who can be part of the solution
Yeah.
instead of,
And
hey,
not,
you're just going to keep my career alive.
yeah, not a bargain basement, hey, you're not going to get a big league deal anywhere else kind of
Yeah.
thing. And that's refreshing too, of seeing the Rockies actually make meaningful signings in the offseason that are not their usual scraping the bottom of the barrel, just getting the leftovers from everybody else after they've already signed.
Yeah, and like Lorenzen, he's not going to be the difference between if they win 100 or lose 100 games or not. But he can be part of the puzzle of helping this team improve in the long run. And yeah, like maybe there's teams out there that are like, yeah, we really don't want to sign Michael Lorenzen to start, but the Rockies can because there's an opportunity to start, and that's what he wants. And so they both get something out of this that's beneficial to them of what they want. And so yeah, it's fun to have him on, and hopefully he fills the void that Bradley Blaylock couldn't in the pitching rotation.
Yeah. And then the day the Lorenzen signing was made official, it has been reported now that the Rockies have gone out and made another non-bargain basement effective signing based on the kind of stuff that we've already heard this front office talk about. And that's bringing in utility infielder and outfielder Willi Castro on what is reported to be a 2-year, $12.8 million deal. So very affordable, but not a bargain signing necessarily, but an affordable piece. And the Rockies have discussed that they need a guy who has the ability to play pretty much everywhere. And Willi Castro fits that bill.
Yeah, and he's a guy that they'd been connected to, around winter meetings that they were wanting to. They'd even said they wanted kind of a multi-position player type of guy, a versatile defender who, he's not shabby defensively. Like he's fine and can play multiple positions, very versatile. So he checks a lot of boxes for a Rockies type player of a guy who can move around the diamond. But over his career, it's got a 4 WAR in his career per Baseball Reference. But he's had some good seasons. He's had some bad seasons. But he's kind of another version of Tyro Estrada, but just a lot more versatile and maybe brings a little bit better or different hit tool and different tool set that the Rockies this is this is Tyro Estrada signing 2.0 with a guy just it's just a little different.
Yeah, a little bit less power in the bat, but a versatile defender, relatively speedy, a dangerous base runner, fits in a lot with some of the other guys that Warren Schaefer and Paul DePodesta have been assembling for this team, of guys who are quick in the outfield and quick on the base paths. And he's another guy, he's very similar to Jake McCarthy, in another guy who's coming off a down year, but has shown flashes of brilliance in the past, and not super long ago. In 2023 and 2024, Castro was pretty good, and was even an all-star in 2024 with the Minnesota Twins. And last year, honestly, he was off to a pretty strong start. It wasn't really until after he got traded to Chicago that he kind of bottomed out and just did not have a really good rest of his season. And
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see what Castro can bring, especially because he is a guy who, more so than anybody like Tyler Freeman or anybody that we've had, honestly, since like Garrett Hampson, in terms of ability to play everywhere, that can play pretty much everywhere. The only two spots he's never played or hasn't played significantly are catcher and first base. He's
Mhm.
played plenty of second, plenty of short, plenty of outfield, throwing some reps at third base. He's even pitched a few times, which is funny to me. But the true super utility nature of Castro is something that I really like in what he brings to this team.
And that kind of brings the question of, where is he going to play primarily? Is he going to be the true utility guy of no, he's just going to fill in the gaps day to day, wherever he's needed, that's where he's going to play. Or do you see him playing more? Hey, this is going to be our starting second baseman come opening day, our starting third baseman come opening day. Where what is the plan? Is he going to be an everyday guy, or is he going to be the utility guy? That's what I'm curious about.
My problem is right now, I just don't think we have enough information. After the McCarthy trade and with this signing, the Rockies 40-man roster is full. They need to make more roster moves in order to finalize this trade. And it's one of those ones where until we see what other moves the Rockies make, I'm honestly just not sure. I think right now you could probably say, okay, he's probably the starting second baseman and might rotate with Tyler Freeman or something like that for an outfield spot and at second base. But I think you could also say he's potentially competition for a lot of the young guys who were on the opening, not on the opening day roster, on the roster at the end of the season last year, who might need to still kind of earn it to start their season on the big league roster this year, where, see how Kyle Karros does in spring. And if Kyle Karros doesn't have a good spring training, you could see Karros back down in Albuquerque and Willi Castro at third base. And it's the same thing for, Ryan Ritter or Adael Amador at second base. Just
Mhm.
kind of because I know that right now this front office wants to look more at the continued development at a lot of the young guys, a lot of the prospects. And I
Yeah.
think that if the organization, if the front office says, I don't think this guy's ready, yes, he made his debut last year, but I think we can help him with some more development in the minors with all the resources that we're putting back into player development, they might choose to do that. But like I said, it's tricky to make that judgment until we see what other moves the Rockies make in the next month and a half.
Yeah, he's the fail-safe type player. You get players like this that act as fail-safes, and say Karros has a good spring training. Okay, then he's your starting third baseman, and now Willie can play second. Now, what if Ryan Ritter or say Adi Amador still on the roster? One of those guys. Well, that makes your decisions just a little bit harder. And yeah, but they want Willie. Do you sign him to a 2-year deal? You plan on using him probably a good deal, a bit, and so yeah, we'll see. He's going to be in that lineup. He'll probably have to bat his way into that lineup every day. Now, he truly could. Hey, we're going to throw you in the outfield today, and we're going to throw you over here now. Like, there's so many. We need to start seeing some more trades, I think, Evan,
Yeah.
and like trimming the fat because they're bringing in the depth. They're bringing in a Willi Castro. They're bringing in a McCarthy. They bring in where you look at that 40-man roster, like there's a little too much fat on this meat. We need to trim some off.
Yeah, and
You look at that mixed outfield, and ugh.
I think what's going to come with that is you are potentially going to see guys, the more experienced guys, get traded, or you're going to see something that the Rockies have been doing so far, which is cutting bait on younger guys that they don't see as part of the future of the organization. We saw Josh Gross get traded away, despite the fact that the Rockies traded for him as a pitching prospect.
Well, Bill Schmidt traded for him.
Yeah. But that's part of it is I think the guys that Bill Schmidt and the previous regime might have been high on, this new one isn't. Like, we know that the previous front office liked Bradley Blaylock. Bradley Blaylock, who's still fairly young, he's only like 25, just got DFA'd.
Yeah, it's taken off the purple tinted glasses because this new guy's coming like, what the heck have you been doing here? And kind of trimming off some stuff.
Yeah, and we've discussed at length, the Rockies have not done a good job with evaluating young talent over the Bill Schmidt era and even before that in terms of who they're drafting, who they're trading for. Things just really haven't worked out. And we've seen them do weird things. Like, remember last year when they traded Nolan Jones away, and that was weird and confusing. And I think a lot of it is just going to be continued evaluation and continue going, I don't know. I don't know about this guy, or I don't think this guy is it. And I think we could see guys like Adel Amador or Zach Veen or Benny Montgomery, or guys that the Rockies have spent premium resources trying to develop or premium draft picks to obtain, and saying, this didn't work. It's time to about face. It's time to make a change.
Mm-hmm. And it's specifically like figuring unclogging the 40-man roster, because that's where we're running into problems now. What do you do with a Yanquiel Fernandez and Zach Veen? Like, it seems like you need to pick between one of them. Or do you really need to keep Tyler Freeman around because his positions are all getting filled up? And is he just going to be your leadoff hitting DH? Probably. And so it's a different kind of logjam that we just need more clarity that no spring training, I guess, will bring about. But it's hard to see them. You acquire McCarthy, and then what if he has a bad spring? Are they going to get rid of him? Probably not. Oh, I don't see him
doing. He has no options.
Yeah, it's like, they're just going to drop him on waivers, and you tried. So there's a lot of the confusing stuff. So we'll see more moves, and if Willi Castro, kind of the domino effect that he has on that roster building.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say about it is I think what makes it more difficult is the amount of time we're spending between these moves getting reported and them being finalized. Like, it was over a week between Lorenzen, and so
it's pretty standard.
But you spend more time waiting and seeing what's going to happen. So we're talking about this now when we have no idea, but probably by this time next week when we're recording, we're going to have that made official, and we'll be able to talk about what's going on with that. But yeah, the Rockies being busier and spending more than we expected them to so far this season. So we're at about $20 million for 2 players, versus normally they're spending like $10 million on like 5 players.
Who all aren't on the roster by June.
Yeah. And I think that's more of it is, instead of wasting the 40-man spots, we did see plenty of minor league signings, but those have really kind of dried up.
Yeah, they'll probably trickle in a little more as spring training really gets close and guys are getting antsy to sign somewhere.
But we will see. But yes. We are going to take a quick little break here. When we come back, we will keep discussing this Rockies roster, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude. I'm Evan, that's Skyler, and we're continuing to talk this Colorado Rockies roster as we get closer and closer to Pitchers and Catchers Report, less than a month before our boys in purple are at Salt River Fields at Talking Stick and getting ready for their first action of the 2026 calendar year. And Skyler, there's still a lot of questions left on this roster based on what we've heard from the front office and just what we have already cemented down. And we spent a little bit of time talking about it right now of who is going to be on this 40-man roster, who's going to be the fat that needs to be trimmed off or moved around with the Willi Castro signing. But honestly, the biggest question is just like, what else does this roster need right now?
And yeah, because it's like every team that's you're still making moves until opening day. You know, we'll see what happens even when spring training rolls around. But what we know for sure, Evan, that it's another starting pitcher is what the Rockies hope to get, whether free agency or some other means. But another starting pitcher, likely a veteran, maybe another innings eater, another starting pitcher. They're probably not going to go get out and get Framber Valdez, but who's out there that they could still get? And how do they fill that position? Because that rotation, there's still a lot of question marks on that, because who knows about Ryan Feltner's still status with health and whether he'll be ready or how he'll perform after miss most last year. And is Dolander going to be ready to really step in and make a rotation spot his own? All that stuff. Because right now, we can pencil in Kyle Freeland, Michael Lorenzen. That leaves
that's pretty
3
much
spots
it.
open.
I would say probably still Ryan Feltner. Last we heard,
it's like those ones are written in pencil, and the other 2 are written in pen.
Yeah, it's tough for Feltner. Last time we heard from him, he said he was feeling good and he's working on getting ready for the regular season, not expecting to have any delays coming into spring training, which is great. But you also want to see what he looks like in spring training, because 2025 was supposed to be the breakout year for him, and he started off okay until he got hurt. And then after he came back and ended up in AAA, he struggled immensely before being shut down again. And so it's either he was not ready to come back or was not fully healthy, or there's other stuff there that needs to be worked on. And so Feltner, I think, really hinges on how he does in spring training for really penciling him in on that. But like you said, even then, that's just 3 guys and you need more than that. And right now on this Rockies 40-man roster, I'm just not sure who else fits the bill, because I think, and I've been talking about this a little bit with some other people, there's a non-zero chance that Chase Dolander could not break the roster on opening day, where after his struggles in 2025 and some of the other stuff that he's had to deal with, they might want to put a little more seasoning on him and have him work with some of these new development resources that we've got to sort of get him back into where we wanted him to be at this point last year.
It's pretty much any player that was rushed up out of necessity and need, as opposed to them earning their spot and forcing the issue. Dolander made 1 start in AAA, and they're like, "Oh, never mind, we need another starter," and they called him up.
Carson Palmquist as well.
Yeah, a ton of guys, and even on the position side of things. I think the moral of the story is don't put so much stock into spring training stats for a lot of guys, because it doesn't translate. You can see that about a lot of Rockies. So they're really good in spring training. Oh, never mind. Bradley Blaylock, one of them. But there's so many open spots. Still, look, so many variables of things in motion.
Yeah, and you don't want to put it all on having to hope that McCade Brown, Chase Dolander, and Carson Palmquist are all ready to go and can immediately be big league pitchers, when we watched them all struggle because they were all rushed up.
Yeah.
Like all 3 of them, the big name prospect debuts from last year, were guys that got rushed up because the Rockies didn't really have any other choice. And that's been that issue that we talked about in the first thing, the depth. And I think that we're going to need to see the Rockies do more about depth, because their only other options right now on the 40-man roster are Gabriel Hughes, and he might be ready, but he might not. Jimmy Herget, who hasn't pitched, who hasn't started since college, but has offered to move into rotational duties if needed with this front office. And Tanner Gordon, who is very similar to Bradley Blaylock in terms of showed more consistency than Blaylock, but also still had his struggles in 2025.
Yeah, and you still have Senzatella, who knows what. Maybe he can pitch his way back into the starting rotation. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I don't know. So adding another starter, Evan, that can help bring some stability to that rotation is still a huge thing for this team to try and do, and not one of those bargain bin guys. You want another signing that's kind of in line with the Michael Lorenzen type signing. Okay, he's had some success, but more so he's consistent and can regularly go out there and pitch
Yeah.
and like not be terrible.
And there's guys like that, Luke, your lower wins above replacement guys, it's not going to be one of these top guys like Framber Valdez or Chris Bassett or maybe probably not even like Zach Gallen, who's still a free agent, but guys who are, worth around 1 to 2 wins above replacement who are available. Lucas Giolito could be an option. You could look at guys like, we joked about it last week, but Miles Mikolas is a
Well,
guy
I'm
who
not
you could
joking.
probably
That's legit who I think they would go for.
who could at least eat some innings for the Rockies, but I don't
Max Scherzer?
think. Oh man, I would love Max Scherzer, but I think this is the absolute last place he would ever sign because I know he wants another chance to get a ring. But whenever I'm playing MLB The Show and I get a chance to get Max Scherzer in purple, I do.
Well, maybe the Blue Jays shouldn't have blown it last year.
Yeah,
He would have had his
Toronto.
ring.
And then he would have come to Colorado.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he would have retired and become a coach and a beloved member of the Colorado community.
Instead, we have to go out and try and get 43-year-old Justin Verlander.
Yeah, that'd be cool too, honestly. But I don't think Verlander's going anywhere. I mean, a stupid answer, honestly, could be bringing back Cal Quantrill, who is also a free agent, who would be relatively cheap, and he's a known quantity. But it's more of just to demonstrate that there are options available for the Rockies that aren't bargain bins, but aren't going to break the bank. Because I know they don't want to spend a crazy amount of money. That's totally understandable. You're entering a rebuild. You don't want to spend a cajillion dollars that are already tied up on guys like Chris Bryant to bring in premium pitching assets when that's not what the team needs right now. But there are so many names that are still free agents that are attainable for the Rockies. And I think it's just going to be a matter of looking at fits.
I think like Tyler Anderson, like reunite with the professor, because he's since leaving the Rockies, he has really settled in as a fairly average quality pitcher. He can go out there and eat some innings, give you some good performances, and just a nice solid arm in your rotation. Is he healthy? That is my question.
He'd have to fight for a uniform number, though, because his Rockies uniform number, 44, is taken by Jimmy Herget, and the number he's worn in every place since, 31, is now Jake McCarthy's number.
Well, if we're paying him however much money, he'll wear what we
give
tell
him
him
whatever
to wear.
number he wants.
No, he wears whatever we give him, and it is available.
But I also like the idea of potentially bringing him back because he's been so many places now. He was an all-star with the Dodgers in 2022 and with the Angels in 2024. He's played with the Pirates. He's played with the Mariners. He's played with the Giants. He's been a lot of places and been just a solid overall pitcher. Very much in your stock of Michael Lorenzen is he's not blowing your socks off, but he's been solid enough to be a consistent mid to back end of rotation guy and can bring in a lot of information about how other organizations are doing things. And he's got connections with guys like Josh Burns from the Dodgers organization.
Yeah, and you can go look at Tyler Anderson's career page, and can I call dibs on this article for Purple Row, Evan?
I was about to ask the same thing.
I already called it.
It's true. You called it first.
You got to write about Lorenzen. I'll write about this one. But like you can look at his stats, and even throughout his career, when he's healthy, he'll give you innings, and that's what the Rockies need right now. And he's a guy who will go out there every day. He's gotten better. He's older. He's wiser. He's methodical. I think that's the type of mold that the Rockies are looking for. And probably wouldn't break the bank. I think like Spot Track, projects him not making a ton, coming off of that deal that he had with the Angels. But yeah, roughly like $7 million. I think he could stomach that. Maybe. Who knows what the Rockies' financial situations are, but
It's
this guy's in that vein. Guys who can eat your innings. No, it would be nice to get another lefty in there, I think, aside from Kyle Freeland, is get another lefty into the mix in the rotation.
yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, you can go to Martin Perez or Jose Quintana.
Eh,
Quintana wouldn't be bad either.
I don't think it's one of those things where I don't know how many, and a part of it is there are so many free agents out there that it's tough to research them all for who'd be a good fit in terms of what pitches they offer and everything like that. But I think there are plenty of perfectly solid options out there that the Rockies could pursue.
You want to go get Patrick Corbin? He's not good, but he's an innings eater.
He's there. No, oh man, and Patrick Corbin
he's good concerning.
He had a good season last year, which I hate because it's a mirage. Like, we've seen Patrick Corbin pitch.
I know. We have more than enough evidence on him. Oh, who's this lefty? His name's Austin Gomber. I wonder who he is.
Yeah, some young no-name fella out of obviously a South American country. Gomber.
Yeah, Austin Gomber, which is Spanish for to gomber.
How would you? Oh gosh, what's the word? I need your brother. The thing where it changes the end of the word based on the use. Conjugation. Thank you. How would you conjugate gomber? Gombemos or gombamos?
I don't know. But yeah,
showing you how much I paid attention in my 8th grade Spanish class.
But I think when it comes to starting pitching for the Rockies, though, there's options. I think that can fit the bill pretty easily. Of just an extra depth guy, probably a veteran that we're going to pencil him in, write him out in pen, and hopefully get 25 starts out of him, 15 starts, something like that. But yeah, I think Tyler Anderson, that's not a bad bet.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably going to be more deals like Lorenzen got, where it's a 1-year deal with an option for the next year. And that gives you either, if you really like him and you want him to stick around, you don't trade him and you've got him set up for the next year, or it makes him tradable at the deadline if you think someone else is ready, and you can then get more assets for the rebuild that way. It's just sort of the way that things should be done right now. The Rockies really shouldn't be putting out long-term deals for any of these guys. And it's the same for Willi Castro. Willi Castro got a 2-year deal. Doesn't appear that there's any option attached to it, but we will see. We're still waiting for more information. But Willi Castro is also only 28 right now, almost 29. So he's one of those ones where if he does great this year, you can trade him. If he doesn't do so great this year, but he does great next year, you can trade him. Or if you like him, you keep him for the 2 years and see what happens.
Yeah. Or you could really look for a bounce back year and bring back German Marquez. Spot Track projects him at a $3.1 million. I don't know. It seems like he's destined for a minor league contract, though.
It right now, I have heard nothing about any teams pursuing German, and that makes me very sad because I love German, but with the season that he had, it's not specifically last year, though, it was a completely different, miserable looking German, and I'm not surprised at all that there doesn't really seem to be any movement on that. And that's a bummer because, like I said, I love German, but you could potentially get him on. And I just said, oh, you don't want a bargain deal, but you could potentially get German back for cheap and just talk about, it's like, hey, we're going to do things differently. We've got this whole new staff. Schaefer trusts you. We've got this. Give us a shot. Give it a shot. 1-year deal. And if not, we part ways. No questions asked.
Yeah. We build you up down in AAA again. But but any other positions? Evan, I know the segment's kind of already run long since we've talked about starting pitching, but
I'm of the opinion that I don't think the Rockies are going to do anything else at first base.
It seems to be pointing that way. unless they really surprise us.
Yeah, I think if they get a first baseman, that's going to be a shock. I think we're going to roll into the season with a platoon of Blaine Crim and Troy Johnston, and that's not
Yeah,
necessarily the worst thing in the world.
yeah. Just as much as it's not the best thing in the world. They're going to give Charlie Condon every opportunity to try and win that spot
Yeah,
in spring training.
it's not the best. It's not the worst. It just kind of is. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know if Condon has that good of a shot of earning it in spring training. You know, we've seen some of his issues. He's not quite tapped into that power that we know he is capable of, but he's hitting the ball really well. And so it's just curious to see what they decide to do with him. It's one of those things where, are they going to rush him up because they need a first baseman, or are they going to, ease off and be more careful because they want him to develop better and utilize some of these new resources that are going to be available to him. And in the meantime, if you
Well,
go
you would
with a
hope those
guy,
resources are available at the big league level too.
yeah, but at the same time, he's never played at Albuquerque. He's only had limited time at AA Hartford. It's
I
I
think
can
it's
see.
less needful for like the position players to reach AAA. I think it's better for the pitchers need to go to AAA. They can't curtail that, but for hitters, they've already gone through the the wild, highs and lows of hitting in the minor league system with Hartford and Spokane and Fresno, and
Yeah, it's just tough because I don't. Nothing is really set in stone with this organization right now. And we're like we've both said, there's still more to be done this offseason in terms of roster moves. And I think it's probably like a 50-50 shot that either Condon starts the season on the big league roster or he doesn't.
yeah, but otherwise, like Krim, and even if it's just Krim or Johnson or heck, maybe Willi Castro will pick up the first baseman glove. Who knows? But like,
Didn't stop Orlando
yeah,
Arcia.
it's whatever. But I think a position needs some more depth, and know that they could look to Evan is catcher and somebody to really back up, because I think I've talked about, like, Braxton Fulford still hasn't done enough to really impress me. As do we need him as a backup? Could we find something else? Like, it's not a set in stone. Yeah, you've got Hunter Goodman, but Hunter Goodman still needs to do a lot to improve defensively. In my book, a lot of the things, and you still need to hope he can replicate his offensive stuff. But bringing in somebody to help with the catching system and maybe help with the pitchers too. I
Jacob
don't know,
Stallings is available.
but I'd like a backup catcher that can hit a little too.
Elias Diaz is available.
I was looking at the list and like, oh, Jonah Heim. Like, can you get him on a bounce back? Or, that's the one that stuck out the most to me. I don't think we want Reese McGuire.
Probably not.
Not after
Especially,
the roast he took.
what would be really funny is signing Reese McGuire and Cal
And Cal
Quantrill.
Quantrill.
Get them in the same locker room together, see what happens. No,
But
it's tricky. And the Rockies did sign they signed that minor league catcher whose name is escaping me right now. But the depth at catcher is just not particularly good right now.
yeah,
It makes me kind of wish we still had Willie McIver, who's now with
or
the
Drew
Texas
Romo.
Rangers organization, or Drew Romo, because we kind of shot ourselves in the foot in terms of catching depth, because below Goodman and Fulford, there's really nobody anywhere close to big league ready in this organization. You've got guys like Cole Messina in Spokane, but he's not ready.
Yeah.
And he's not particularly close to ready
Oh, yeah.
because he's only been in the org for a couple of years.
Yeah, Brett Sullivan is who you're thinking of.
And the issue is there's just not that many free agent catchers on the market.
Yeah, and so that would be like a prime, like, hey, let's trade for a catcher if we need to.
Yeah, probably the best remaining catcher on the market was Victor Caratini, who just got reportedly signed by the Minnesota Twins. And the other big names on the market are Christian Vasquez, who's 35, Elias Diaz, who is also 35. A lot of these guys are 35. Luke Miley, Tom Murphy, Jacob Stallings. It's sort of an old men, Mitch Garver.
Yeah.
It's an old men's club when it comes to free agent catchers right now.
Yeah. And I think of, as much as I like a backup catcher that can hit a little, even if it's just purely defense oriented backup catcher, it's help with the pitching staff and help figure things out there and could help mentor, Hunter Goodman even a little bit more.
Welcome back, Jacob Stallings.
Yeah. But I want him to hit left-handed. Give me that platoon. That's why I think of Jonah Heim, because he's a switch hitter.
I'd be okay with Jonah Heim. I like Jonah Heim.
Spot Track points out MJ Melendez, who mostly played outfield with the Royals, but
he can play
as a catcher. But
yeah,
I don't know. That would be a position I think is lacking in some depth that needs a little shoring up.
Yeah, if I had to pick any of the older catchers left on the market, I'd probably go with Austin Barnes, just because of his history with being a backup catcher and helping with pitching staffs. Plus, he's got the connections to the Dodgers with Josh Burns.
Yeah, and he'd be a cheap option and probably couldn't hit worth the darn, but sometimes you don't need that out of a backup catcher.
The Rockies historically have never really had that with a backup catcher.
Or a primary catcher.
Yeah,
until
in general.
Now.
Until the last couple of years where Elias Diaz was an all-star and then Hunter Goodman.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll wait and see. Who knows? By the time episode 197 rolls around in the next week, we could have answers to these questions. So we'll wait and see, and we'll take one more quick break. So don't go anywhere here on Affected by Altitude. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler, our third and final segment here of this episode. We're going to talk about some odds and ends around the league. And I think the first and biggest news of the last week was that former Colorado Rockies third baseman Nolan Arenado is back in the National League West as an Arizona Diamondback.
Like we all predicted.
The St. Louis Cardinals traded him 1-1 with cash for an 8th round draft pick pitcher whose name is escaping me right now. But yeah, Nolan Arenado will likely finish his career, at least for now, in Arizona. And now we've got to see him multiple times a year.
Yeah, this is a pure salary dump for St. Louis. We've already seen them moving on from people. They moved on from Contreras. They moved on from Sonny Gray. And so it was only a matter of time for Arenado, who coming off a down year in 25, but he's still a decent defender. He can be a good hitter. Like, he's a good, smart hitter. And I think a move to Arizona, that's a nice little pickup for them. Pretty cheap for them to pick him up, too. Like, it's not going to cost them much. Now, you'll take a flyer on a future Hall of Famer when you're paying him, what, $11 million?
Yeah, something like $11 million a year.
In exchange for a 8th round draft pick pitcher that probably hasn't even thrown a pitch yet in professional baseball yet.
Yeah. And what the Diamondbacks are getting is, while probably not a Gold Glove winner anymore, still a very, very good defensive third baseman. And yes, his bat dropped off tremendously last year, but there is a chance of at least somewhat of a revival. I mean, I like this move for Arizona. I hate it for us, for obvious reasons. But the bright side is the Rockies are officially no longer paying any money towards Nolan Arenado. So it's not like we're paying him $5 million to go play for a division rival.
Yeah, and the Rockies confirmed that to multiple avenues of, we're done with the contract. We're no longer responsible for it. I don't know whether there was like a trade provision or whatever, or did they just pay that $5 million to St. Louis? I don't know, but they're done with that contract. 2026 would have been their last year anyway in 2026. But the contract jargon, but it'll be fun. I like Nolan. Always liked him as a player. Fun to watch. And it'll be nice to see him a little more often. It still just pains me. Like, he should have just been a Rocky this whole time because the grass did not turn out to be greener for him in St. Louis. And so we could have just saved everybody a lot of trouble if he just stayed in Colorado. But maybe the Rockies wouldn't have been as bad because they would have had Nolan Arenado on their roster still, and could have done some other things. But either way, like hopefully he gets his chance with Arizona
Yeah.
and has a little better luck there. Because like I don't hate the Diamondbacks. Well, I don't like them, but I don't hate and loathe them like I do the other National League West teams.
Yeah. The dislike is not quite the same.
It's like, whatever. But
Yeah.
no, hopefully he gets his opportunity, can help be a role model for some of the other young players, and he joins a good group of players out there. So hopefully it works out well for him.
Yeah. I'm wishing him the best. And like you said, it ends up being tough because the grass definitely wasn't greener. He ended up having just as many playoff appearances. Actually, no, I think he had less playoff appearances with the Cardinals
In
than he did
terms
with the
of total
Rockies.
games played, had less. Went to the postseason twice.
And they got a couple of years of his prime, but he is definitely on the downswing of his career right now. The Cardinals really didn't do anything while he was there, had a lot of the same problems that the Rockies have been prone to, though just not as dysfunctional an organization. And now they've got to look at rebuilding it the same way that the Rockies are. And he comes away with not that much to speak of.
Yeah, well, I got top 3 MVP finish, a Silver Slugger, and a couple Gold Gloves, and some All-Star appearances. That's it. That's all his. He got a division title. That's the one thing he got that he never had in Colorado, was a division title. Good for him.
Yeah, and the trade didn't really work out for either team. For the
Yeah.
Cardinals, they didn't get any further in their playoff chase, and now they're at the precipice of a rebuild. For the Rockies, none of the prospects that they got panned out at all. None of the players that they got panned out at all. And so now,
It's like,
honestly, I would call it a wash.
Yeah, Austin Gomber like had some good moments and pitched some games for them for 4 years, 4 or 5 years, but other than that, yeah, pretty much a wash.
And Luis Montero existed for a little bit.
He living it up in Japan.
Hey, he got a second contract with Hiroshima, so that's cool.
But ultimately, it's a wash. But yeah, seeing the Arenado jerseys, the Diamondbacks jerseys, gonna hate that.
Yeah, I already dislike that. But I do think it ends up more narrowing down that if Nolan Arenado goes into the Hall of Fame, it's going to be as a Rocky.
You would hope so. That's the hope. That's where he did most of his damage and came to prominence. And so hopefully he understands that and doesn't try to fight the Hall of Fame on it and go, no, I'd rather go in without a cap or a Cardinals hat.
Yeah. I mean, the hope would be, and I don't know if the Rockies will do this, is that after he retires, they can mend the bridge and try and make things right. That, there are still other players they need to do that with as well. But I think the more that Dick Monfort steps off and the more that this front office does, there's more of a chance of that kind of thing happening, but you never know. And,
Yeah.
I hope he enjoys his stay in Arizona. It's a fun team. It's a relatively nice ballpark.
The hope is that when they come to Coors Field or when they play the Rockies, that then he sees, oh, the Rockies are improving. They're doing some cool stuff. Then after that contract, Evan, then he signs a deal with the Rockies. There you go. 1 year, I'm going to help this team, and we win the World Series in 2028.
Sure, let's go with that.
It's going to happen. It happened in my out of the park baseball. He was a free agent. I signed him. We won the World Series. He retired and became a bench coach.
Bench coach for the Rockies?
Yes. I made him my bench coach.
That's fun. But yeah, that sort of ties up that loose end, and now we just sort of wait for his career to come to an end and see what happens after that.
And at least he wasn't a Dodger.
Yeah, never became a Dodger, and
Almost
honestly,
became an Angel.
As much as it sucks, his whole departure, all of it, kicked off a chain of events that made us all miserable, but did finally lead us to where we are now, which is wide scale organizational change. Like, it didn't have to happen, and it sucks that it did. But because it did, that's how we end up where we are right now.
It really was like one of the big dominoes that really put things in motion. Because leading up to him getting traded, it was like, oh well, they didn't really do anything to build on the 2018 roster at the deadline. We didn't really do anything to try and improve our playoff chances. Lose in the playoff, get swept in the playoffs 2018.
And he was already disgruntled. We know that right after he signed his contract, he was sending his tape to the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's like then the next year, because then DJ leaves, and then so DJ really puts it in motion. DJ leaves, hey, and then the Rockies sign him. Hey, we're gonna build around you. You're a centerpiece. Does that the next offseason. Rockies don't do anything except sign Jose Mujica. That was the only guaranteed major league contract they signed. And he's like, what the heck? Like, why aren't we doing anything? He gets involved in trade rumors that offseason. And then he's like, hey, I feel disrespected type of stuff. Like, what are they doing? Plays out 2020 and shortened season, COVID, ends up getting injured. The last couple weeks of that season with the shoulder injury. Didn't he injure it like the second series of the year against Oakland?
Yeah.
Injured his shoulder on a diving play, so he played hurt the rest of that year. They shut him down. Empty stadiums. We never get to say goodbye. And then all the trade rumor crap and him complaining even more, and all comes public, and then he gets traded to St. Louis. So just a messy thing, and that just it was the main catalyst, I think, that really jump started
the messy public divorce.
And then turn around and dropping whatever savings you had from Arenado, dropping it on Chris Bryant. Did not help.
And here we are.
I have a buddy who's a Cardinals fan, and told him, hey, you get to join my team, traded Nolan Arenado for nothing, paid another team a bunch of money to play for the other team. Gets to join the club. And then I told him, hell, at least your team's not going to turn around and drop $182 million on a player. He's like, there's still time.
Yeah, that we know of.
I was like, oh yeah, Anthony Rendon is a free agent.
Nah, Rendon is done. I would be shocked if he ever plays again.
Well, if the Cardinals want to give him $182 million, I can be Anthony Rendon.
It's me. Hello, Anthony Rendon. You look nothing like Anthony Rendon.
When's the last time you saw him?
Yeah, you haven't seen me play in a while. Last thing to really talk about as we wrap things up, one of the major free agent pieces of the offseason has now fallen, and that is outfielder Kyle Tucker, who has signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers on a 4-year, $240 million deal. So that's 60-something AAV. Also comes with $30 million in deferred money, and I believe there is an opt-out after the second year.
Yes.
But he is being paid, I think after the deferrals, it's something like $52 million each year. And this has once again ignited the calls of the Dodgers are ruining baseball. We're going to have a lockout. Is this going to make a salary cap happen?
It's just so messy because why did we think he was going to go anywhere but the Dodgers? Dodgers are interested. Of course he's going to go there. Same with Edwin Diaz, who was like, no, I'm just going to go over to the Dodgers because they're going to give me a butt ton of money. Same with Kyle Tucker. What's that? You're going to give me $240 million for 4 years? Yes, please. I don't have to get locked into a contract somewhere. And so it's frustrating, and you understand why people are upset about it, because the Dodgers just consistently are monopolizing all the talent. Look at these 29 other teams, let's say 28 other teams, or even 27, because the Yankees and Mets could always do more stuff. It's like the Mets swooped in and stole and took Bo Bichette.
On a glorified 1-year deal.
Yeah.
No,
And
and
so, like,
it causes so much frustration because we always hear, well, your team could do it too. But the response to that is always, no, not really. Because yes, any team can defer money. That's a thing that has long existed in baseball. But no team can defer over $1.5 billion in money. No other team really has the capital to do that than the Dodgers with their excellent media deal that prints money for them and their enormous amount of resources. No other team can go out and sign over like 3 years something like $2.5 billion worth of free agents. That's more than the net worth of multiple other teams. It's
yeah.
more than it's like the amount of money that they've spent in free agency over the last 3+ seasons is more than double the total net worth of the Colorado Rockies as a franchise. It's just not something that the majority of teams can realistically do. And I know that teams not spending, teams not competing is a problem in Major League Baseball with your Pittsburgh Pirates, with your Rockies, with your Marlins. Teams not spending the amount of money that they can spend. But even if the Rockies were spending all of their possible resources on big name free agents, they would never be able to outcompete the Dodgers to do the things that the Dodgers do.
Yeah, and there's so many just different avenues and lanes to the arguments in this type of discussion in the salary cap of what's going to be a messy lockout, because you'll have Dick Monfort in there fighting, whoa, we need a salary cap. And honestly, here's the thing I always wonder about, Evan, because times I kind of go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, salary cap probably could help. Salary floor type stuff. Think of realistically, what would the salary cap be at? Because you have to have a floor with it, because otherwise, depending on what the cap is, how many teams are even going to come close to it with what they're at now? How close or how in danger are the Rockies ever going to be to hitting their cap?
Yeah. And it can't be a concrete floor and cap, because with how economies change and how other things change, it would need to have flexibility. Like the NHL cap changes every year. And it's one of those things where what you set as a floor now is going to be considered peanuts in 5 years, potentially, unless the entire economy collapses.
Yeah.
And it's the same for a cap of eventually the cap. Having the idea of a cap comes with so many other concerns, because we have seen these free agent contracts are spiraling out of control. It is a tremendous amount of money that is being thrown around on these big name players.
And how many of, and a lot of it is, I wonder who their agent is. Oh, it's Scott Boras. And, because I think of Evan, there's times that people complain like, oh, these teams don't want to spend. What about the Cincinnati Reds offering the the biggest contract in franchise history, $220+ million for however long to Ellie De La Cruz, a good, exciting young player. They want to extend him, lock him up of those arbitration years and beyond. And his agent says, nope. Scott Boras says, nope, we're not doing that.
And for a team like the Reds, that is a pretty reasonable and somewhat exorbitant deal, because a team like the Reds is never going to be able to go, you can have $500 million.
Yeah, you're getting paid $45 to $50 million a year. And that's the thing. Is we look at all this, and both sides are greedy. Players want to get paid as much as they can. And hey, that's their prerogative. And it's same with the owners. We want to make as much money as possible.
Whatever. That's capitalism, baby.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like those two sides right now are just not compatible with one another with where we're at right now. And especially with, like, I get it with players who are under Scott Boras, because Scott Boras is going to go out of his way to make you as much money as possible.
He's going to rob the Colorado Rockies of $182 million, and you don't have to play a game.
and that is his job, and that is your prerogative. But at the same time, it's not an even playing field, and it never will be. Even
Yeah.
with a salary cap, there are going to be teams that will struggle to come up with the money to meet that cap.
Or struggle with being willing to even come close to the cap. Because you look at the competitive, the luxury tax stuff, and how many teams are even a bunch of those teams that don't spend enough. How close are they coming to it anyway? So is the cap gonna? No, Dick Monfort can cry for a salary cap all he wants. Is it going to change anything he does? No. If your plan is just I'm going to try to kneecap the guy in front of me, that's just stupid. That's bad for business.
Because
Elevate
here's
to
the
him.
thing is, the teams that can afford to go all the way up to the salary cap are going to do it.
Yeah.
And if your whole thing is, well, I can't afford to go up to that, or I don't want to spend that money, well, then that sucks for you. But the Dodgers are still going to max out as much as they possibly can, unless you set that cap at something comically low that means nobody can really sign anybody.
Yeah. And then players wouldn't want to do that either, because it's like, you're going to severely limit. What about all those guys in front of you that were getting $50-60 million? Now I can't get that. And so it's something has to be done to help with the competitive field. I don't know what it is. Is it improving the revenue sharing even more? So then, and allocate to the Rockies, like, you have to spend this. But then how do you monitor how they spend it? And so there's no easy solution to all of this.
You set a salary floor, but what's to keep a team from spending all of their money just to get to that floor and saying, well, we're at the floor, we're good.
Yeah, and no, we didn't do anything to improve our team. We just extended a bunch of people. We just kept what we had in-house. And so there's no easy solution to any of this.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating because we know a lockout's going to happen. We're going to sit here a year from now, twiddling our thumbs, doing who knows what. Every Rocky ever will become a regular occurrence, probably.
Yeah, hoping that maybe baseball will be back soon.
But it just adds more fuel to what's going to be an ugly fight in 11 months' time.
Yeah. And who knows, like, the uglier that this has the opportunity of getting, the more likely we are that we don't even get a season. It's not just that they won't play 162. It's that we don't get anything.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Dodgers.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Scott Boras.
And on that cheerful note, that'll about do it here for us on Affected by Altitude. Thank you so much for listening. Skyler, where can the folks find you at?
Just like the Dodgers, I'm going to defer that information until 2035. You'll
get one letter of his Blue Sky handle every year for the next 10 years.
Yeah. stimmons13.bsky.social over at Blue Sky, and then on Twitter at Skyler Timmons. Shout out to new follower Chad McDonald on Twitter, who just joined the Rockies as a special assistant.
Oh, he followed you? That's fun.
I assume it's him.
You can find me over on Blue Sky at evanlang27.bsky.social. Love to hear from you. Catch me doing the Monday Rock Piles over on Purple Row. And remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting and platforms of choice. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If it's got podcasts, we are on it. Catch the video version of the show over on YouTube. And you can find us on all social media platforms, including YouTube, at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. That's going to do it here for episode 197 of Affected by Altitude. We are trickling closer and closer. It's 197 or 196. Either way, we're getting closer and closer to episode 200 of our silly little internet show, and we thank you so much for being along for the ride. But once more, I'm Evan. That's Skyler. Skyler, how about you hit him with it, and we'll get on out of here.
Farewell. This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.